Hey everybody, it's Garage Dog here. Wanted to make you a video today, introduce myself. I'm kind of a hobbyist, but love working on cars, love working on engines, Mopars, Chevys. Really doesn't matter what it is, but I'm right outside of Detroit, so it's got to be American, right? Cool thing is, I got this Corvette here, just bought it recently, and I'm starting a big project. It's a 84. It's got a crossfire in it and only makes about 200 horsepower. So with the LS everything craze, I'm going to be doing a 5.3 all aluminum build on this particular car, and I've got the engine here that I picked up a couple weeks ago. So picked it up over at Phil's Auto Parts, and really great guys over there. So if you're ever in the need of an engine, any used auto parts, hit them up. Really good people over there, so check them out. But this engine that I picked up is a 2007 all aluminum 5.3 LS, like I had mentioned. This one had a DOD lifter failure, which were pretty common in 2007. Plagued a lot of them, so you can find these engines usually in the scrap yards pretty affordably, and they make a bunch of power. This one in particular is the LS6 heads on it from the factory. And 9.6 to 1 compression, so it's already got a really good foundation to build some more power off of. So I'm doing a cam swap on it and putting an LS6 intake on it, doing just a refresh on it, lifters, things like that. But today what we're doing is we're deleting that DOD system, and I've got some cool parts that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to kind of walk you through the steps on how to delete it. And we're gonna take care of that today. So let's get started. All right. So first up, we've got the Lingenfelter Ceiling plug set of 8. I'm going this route rather than drilling and tapping the block. I don't want to take the chance of having aluminum floating through the engine. These are, I think, around $16 over at Summit or Jags. You can find them, and you got to have a pretty heavy-duty rivet gun to use these, but Lingenfelter does sell one. I think it's around $100 if you want to get theirs. I just went down to the local parts store, picked up one very similar design for about $16. So these go in and seal up those 8 oil passages so that you don't lose oil pressure. Also went with this ICT Billet Valley tray. These are made in Kansas, made right in the U.S., so anytime you can support a good company in the U.S., you got to take advantage of that. It does come with all the O-rings, as you can see. This one, again, being that it's a 2007 made for the DOD, you can see that it does have the O-ring fittings here. I've heard that you can just use this plate with the O-rings, and that will keep oil pressure. I'm not going to take any chances. Last thing I want to do is get this all together and then come to find out I've got, oil pressure leak. So we're going to seal it up with the Lingenfelter kit, and then we're also going to use the ICT billet tray here. So that's the first step, and let's go check out the engine now. All right, so here's the engine itself. Here's the part that we're going to be taking off here. This is the Valley tray. You can see it almost kind of looks like a little bit like a valve body and a transmission, and I have a feeling they operate very similarly. I believe this is the plug that controls the system and turns on and turns off the oil pressure in here. So this plate's going to get replaced, obviously. This is the old oil pressure switch here, and that's going to get relocated as the block-off plate does not have that on there. These are known for failing, from what I understand. There's screens in here, and they get plugged up with grit, sand, maybe some metal particles over the years, if you're not super religious on oil changes, things like that. And that's ultimately kind of what causes the DOD failure in these early engines, from what I understand. You guys may have some other reasons for failure too, and you may see other reasons, but that's one of the culprits from what I understand. So I imagine once we tear this off, you can actually see where there's a little bit of a gap here. This will come apart, and there's a gasket in there. We might take a look at it just to see what it looks like once we get it in there. If you were going to repair the system, you would definitely want to, repair that portion of it, replace that gasket, clean out those screens, things like that. Otherwise, you're probably going to be looking at another lifter failure right around the corner. Okay, well, there you can see quite a bit to it. You can take all this apart, check out those screens, which are more than likely underneath all this. I'm not going to do that right now, but here's the inside. These are actually where the DoD plugs are going to be going now that we've got the cover off. The gasket still looks pretty good. I don't know if you could reuse that normally or not. I'm going to be taking that out. You can see the camshaft is down right there. But yeah, so these are all going to get plugged. And I'm going to do a little cleaning in here first before we do put them in. But everything looks pretty good in here, actually. Looks pretty clean for the most part. I'm just going to clean these up a little bit, and yeah, and then we'll get those plugs in. Alright, so this process is pretty easy. You just got to put one of these in the riveter, open it up, make sure it's in there good, get it set, make sure it's in there flat, just like that. Real easy. Much easier than tapping, I would say, and drilling these out and putting plugs in them. This is a really good system. And it's a little quicker too, so can't beat that. Alright, so as you can see, they're all in, they're all flush, and shouldn't have to worry about any oil pressure. So that looks good. It's pretty cleaned up as far as where it needs to seal, so I'm going to go ahead and put that tray on now. Here's the actual DoD lifters themselves. They kind of got this large spring on the top, so you can't mistake them for a regular lifter. This is the one that actually had collapsed. When I took it out, it actually snapped back up, so it looks like it was temporarily kind of stuck open, and then when I took it apart, it freed itself up. So it did have an effect on the oil pressure on the system. Some of the push rods did get damaged on the ends. You could tell from a lack of oil pressure. So again, if you're doing this, you want to inspect those push rods and the lifters and your rocker arms. Make sure there's not any premature wear there. And if there is, you want to replace those accordingly. These also do have unique lifter trays as well. I don't know if you can see that very well, but the DoD lifters actually have a specific tray that they use. So if you're doing a DoD delete, you're going to have to get new trays. They're not very expensive. I'd recommend getting some new ones. I think they're like $11 a piece or so. Especially if you're online and you can kind of go through like some of the LS used parts stores, things like that. I think I got some lifters for about $75 with the trays. So there's some good deals out there for sure. So here's the ICT Billet Valley tray. Got the gaskets in it, and so far really impressed with the quality on this. Gaskets fit in there really well. These O-rings fit in there real nice and tight. Like I said earlier, you could probably just run this tray by itself and it would probably work. It's sufficiently thick. It's over a 1/4 inch thick. You probably could do it, but again, I'm not going to take any chances. Plus, I already bought the Lingenfelter kit, so I'm going to run with that. But this plate, yeah, it's really nice quality piece. And, you know, American made, so you can't beat that. Definitely support these guys if you can, because this is a nice piece of hardware for sure. So here we are. The Valley tray is in place. Just needs to tighten up the hardware. The hardware was supplied with the Valley pan, so an added bonus. They are flush when they are tightened all the way down. So if you are running an intake that needs a little additional clearance, you'll be able to run this, no problem. I'm going to be running the LS6 intake manifold, so a lot of this will be covered up, but I might be running a sheet metal intake from Holley in the future. The heads are already off of this engine. They're just sitting on there right now. Next video, we're going to be installing the Brian Tooley Racing valve springs in there, and the camshaft as well. I did get a stage 3 cam that we're putting in here, and things really going to make some good power. We're going to be cleaning up the engine block here. Going to be pulling the balancer off and pulling the timing chain cover off. We're going to be modifying the oil pump. I'm going to be pulling that apart, and I'm going to show you guys a couple tricks on how to increase the pressure as well as do a little porting on that. So stay tuned. More to come, and I'll see you guys later.